to a special episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast. We are shooting today at the NYU International Hospitality Investment Forum in New York City at the Marriott Marquis Times Square. And, you know, we know that everybody loves the quote-unquote live episode, the special episode of Tell Me More. So we're doing it again. With me, as always, are CoStar Jan Freitag and STR's Isaac Collazo. Jan, how are you feeling today?
Good morning, day two. It was a long night, but good to be here and to recap. Looking forward.
These guys can party. Isaac, how about you?
Yeah, I'm tired. I kind of disappointed Jan. I am normally the night owl, and I called it early last night, but he starved me. He just kept giving me drinks. He just said, have another drink. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So finally I said, I'm really hungry. I've got to go now.
And he went running this morning. So
I did go running this morning. I did tell him that I wanted to run, so I had to get in bed at a decent hour.
See, these guys know how to do an industry conference. I'm telling you, and there is so much information that we can gather in the halls, at the parties, in running down the street. Like, have you ever run into, you know, a hotel industry CEO as you're jogging through the streets of Manhattan?
Not a CEO, but I've run into people we know.
See? So that's how you get the good information, people. And we are going to share that information here on the Tell Me More podcast. Before we begin, I want to give a special shout out to Dee Dee at CBRE, who I ran into in the elevator yesterday. She noticed my name tag and she said she's a huge fan of the show. So
well,
hi, Dee Dee.
And of you.
Well, right? Really, it's you guys. I'm just the pretty face, which is why we do it as a podcast.
Hi,
now, Jan, I want to start with you because yesterday at the first day of the conference, and again, we're not strictly live, but on day one of the conference, you presented the updated forecast from CoStar and Tourism Economics. It was a big change.
It was a big change.
So tell us about it, and then Isaac's going to share some color into how it happened. A change on the positive side.
That's the good thing. Let's just be very clear.
Yes.
The first quarter was very, very strong, so strong that most of the publicly traded companies and most of the REITs restated their year-end forecasts, so we did as well. Mm-hmm. They were a lot more conservative, but we're proposing now that RevPAR is going to grow 2.8% for the year, driven by 2% growth in ADR. So those are
That's big.
That's really, really helpful. Room supply growth is still de minimis, 0.4%. So we took that down actually a little bit because the supply pipeline there's really not a whole lot happening, even though NYU was buzzy and buzzing and people are trying to get deals done. The deals are often on the transaction side, not so much on the new development side. So new development is still very, very muted. That means, demand is up, outpacing supply growth, which means you have some occupancy growth, which then means there's some pricing power, which gets us to RevPAR growth of 2.8%.
Isaac, unpack a little bit the changes and the conversations that went into making that decision beyond what Jan just told us.
Well, the first thing is, as we talked about in this podcast, we started noticing demand was really rising faster than we expected. We had expected Q1 to be negative. It was nothing near negative, right? It was very, very high. And
regular listeners know this. They should not have been surprised.
So we were surprised. And again, we noticed that beginning in December that something was changing. So in this forecast round, the first thing we did, as Jan mentioned, we lowered supply, because supply growth is actually trending down. If you look at the graphs that we've been presenting at various conferences and presentations, you'll see that the supply growth is, instead of going up as we predicted, we thought it'd be about 0.7. Right. We're now thinking it's 0.4. It's not a big change, but it is a change. The other thing has been the demand side. We raised demand by more than 100 basis points because, again, the demand growth we saw in the first 5 months of this year completely beat our expectations. I mean, we couldn't have been more wrong if we tried. And I laugh about that, but we couldn't have been more wrong if we tried to be wrong.
Wrong in a good way.
Wrong in a good way. One thing about the ADR, well, it's also been raised by 100 basis points. It's still below the rate of inflation. So again, the margin pressure to owners will continue to be there because, again, we saw inflation in April of 3.8%. And again, we're only looking at total ADR growth of 2%. So it's still good. It's still going to be driving the RevPAR side. But again, it's still going to be a difficult environment for owners.
Inflation was high.
And that's really a large part of the conversations that I've had with owners and investors and managers about that pressure to drive margin, which is very, very hard in an environment where everything gets more expensive, but your top line growth is quote unquote only 2%. We're coming out of the gate saying, oh, look, it's 2%. But in reality, we probably have to say it's only 2%.
Right. It's all relative. Sure.
Right. And what's interesting,
Any number can be positive, but another one can be more positive.
what's really interesting is, again, when we're looking at that labor component, because it is labor and other expenses are actually getting close to each other. Labor still outpacing other expenses. So again, we expect that to continue. We don't think in the high inflationary environment we're in right now, it's just not going to change.
Right.
Okay.
Now, these two guys, Isaac and Jan, I'll paint a picture for our listeners and watchers that when you walk through the NYU conference with them, they are stopped at every turn by people who know them, people who admire them, people who want to be them. Tell me, Jan, after you delivered that forecast, what were people asking you when they stopped you in the elevator?
So it was very much people like, oh, are you with Isaac? Tell Isaac we said hi. And then they say, thank you, because our first quarter was much stronger than your prior Alice forecast. So yeah, you had to revise that. So now you are very much more in line with what the reality is that we are seeing. There's still, again, the conversation about CPI, the conversation about World Cup, which we may talk about, the conversation about international inbound. That still very much permeates the questions that I'm getting. But people are they look at our forecast and they nod and they're like, yep, that tracks. Let's see.
Feels a bit more in line with practitioner.
But then they're saying, let's see if we can be better, because it's, of course, just the average, and they want to be better than the average.
Okay. General vibes of the conference. I want to ask you both about takeaways. You sit in the sessions, you talk with people, as we mentioned. Isaac, what is one thing you heard from a stage or a speaker that really stuck in your mind or made you think?
Made me think. I guess the CEO panel yesterday, I thought was really fabulous.
So that was the
ending one, right? That's probably the last one. Yeah.
Hyatt, IHG, and Accor CEOs on the main stage.
And someone on stage said, be audacious. And I thought that was a great way to, kind of encapsulate what we're hearing, what we've seen. We continue to hear again today that it's all about leisure. People want experiences. People are traveling 3, 4, 5 times a year now because they want those experiences, those connections. And I thought that word, be audacious, or that phrase, probably encapsulated everything even from this morning to all we heard yesterday. And it covers everything from AI to talent to experiential things. So I thought that's a great word.
Jan, you've mentioned a phrase this week that you particularly liked. I don't remember it now. What was it?
I was talking at my
happy, but okay.
Coming into the very first cocktail party before the conference had even started, I bumped into an owner, and I was like, "Okay, so how were the first 4 months, and how's it going?" And it was part of an ownership group, and I said, "How do you feel?" And she said, "Well, we as owners, we are happy but not satisfied." And that seems to be sort of the headline. So I'm going to write my recap email for you. And that's going to be the title. Hey. Because that is very much the vibe that I got when I went to the cocktail receptions last night, that people are like, yeah, sort of the mood is upbeat. Now, we are a very positive industry, period. We are people. Yes. And so it's hard to sort of rain on our parade. So people are pretty optimistic. But that margin pressure, this idea of, oh, there's more, this not being satisfied, also permeates as an undertow of that here.
Margin pressure, and also that, I don't want to say this maybe to you guys who are both fairly optimistic in, especially Isaac, when it comes to consumer spending and consumer optimism, but I don't know. I'm sensing some cracks in the commentary about that. And I think at a conference like this, people up on a stage are very high placed and high powered in their companies. And it's great to talk about this desire to travel. But, today we saw on the main stage, we had Larry Kukulik, who is the CEO of BWH, Best Western. And he was mentioning, for their level of traveler, though they have hotels at all chain scales, they do see pushback in terms of spending and cost. And I don't know, it's more of a worry than we like to talk about at conferences like this, but I see a few cracks.
I echo that, actually. What concerned me over the Memorial Day weekend was demand was down versus last year. Okay. So that is something, we'll finish the analysis with the data we get this week, because again, we went to look at the 3 days. We were only looking at the first 2 days, Friday and Saturday, but it was a kind of, hey, is this the beginning of something? Are we seeing changes? But then what I keep hearing and talking to others outside our industry, again, the expectations for this summer are still very strong.
Yes.
And so it'll be just, maybe that was just a blip. Maybe it's an anomaly. We just don't know. But again, we'll be watching the data. But yes, I do think, again, we've been optimistic. And we're optimistic because again, the stock market is still doing very well. And the majority of travelers tend to be higher income.
Yes.
And so where I live, my Atlanta residence, Alpharetta, we like to call it the Glen Abbey effect. The Glen Abbey effect, it's my neighborhood, is fine right now. Glen Abbey is doing great. There are a lot of new cars. People are adding things here and there.
Right.
So again, and that group of people tend to be corporate gypsies. Everyone who lives there is probably a VP or above.
Is traveling for work.
And they're traveling for work. They're traveling with their families. They're the ones doing the 3-4 trips a year. When you start seeing that group of people then cutting back, then you know there's real cracks.
That becomes the indicator for hotel.
And in 2007 and 2008, you literally could see it. Here, we're not seeing it yet. So I think, maybe it was just an anomaly for Memorial Day. We'll see what happens. But I still think corporate America and those in the professional side are still doing very well, and they're going to travel.
Yes.
I disagree.
Of course you do.
With these cracks.
Okay.
Oh, you disagree with the cracks?
You disagree
I
with
look
the cracks.
at gas at $4.50, $5, and it doesn't seem to matter. I look at consumer sentiment at the lowest ever, and it doesn't seem to matter. And now we're proposing...
Overall consumer sentiment then being low is not dinging travel, you
Correct.
mean?
So the headwinds that people are talking about, international inbound isn't as high. Well, Adam Sachs very ably said, well, that is 1% of the total demand. So yeah, we would like to have it, but the reality is, it's not that meaningful. So I am not so sure that all these headwinds that we can sort of draw up actually impact our industry today. And then Chris Nassetta is, of course, the uber optimist. Glass is always 3/4 full. And he's saying, no, it's convergence. Actually, the lower end is coming up, the C-shaped economy. He's trying to force this term C-shaped economy on the industry. I'm not sure that this is going to stick, but his point, he's even more optimistic than we are. Our RevPAR forecast for the economy sector is, 0 point something, call that flat for all intents and purposes. I think when you talk to him, he's saying, no, it's actually going to be even better than that for the customer types that he's trying to target, not economy, but call that mid-scale. So I hear the data, but I look at our data, I'm like, well, it doesn't seem to matter.
Well, and the takeaway then is that piece of the impact on the hotel industry, right? Because headwinds are headwinds, right? I may not be happy at the grocery store, but if I'm traveling, if, that effect is still happening, then all the better for it. Let's talk about this summer. So I had not heard much World Cup chatter in day 1 of the conference, but in day 2 came up this morning on some of the panels, and I think it was the CEO of Stonebridge had a good comment about it. He said, look, we've known that this was how the demand was going to look. This was how we expected it to come in. And he said, as far as the international inbound travel, he had a great phrase. He said, that cake is baked. If they don't have tickets yet, they're not coming. But we have seen leisure really able to fill the gaps. And he said they're expecting still strong leisure demand this summer to fill gaps, whether it's for World Cup or something else. Isaac, Jan?
Yeah, a couple of things. Just to go back on, I want to go backwards, but it'll answer this question as well. I think when we look at all these consumer indicators, right, confidence and all that, remember, it is the average American.
Yes.
And the people who travel and stay in hotels is not necessarily the average American.
Right.
And I think we got to always keep that in mind. We keep looking at these, well, consumer confidence all-time low. No one's going to travel.
Right.
No. Stop. That is not the person who travels anyway. So you really, and the confidence board actually has it by income group. And we really should focus on the expectations of the higher income group, because that's the group that travels. Because of that, I do still think summer is going to be great. Or good. I don't want to use great. It's going to be solid. It's going to be better than last year. We've got to believe it's going to be better than last year. Last year was a really weak summer. So anything that takes it a little higher is going to be better than last year. We do have all these mega events. We have concerts out there. We have BTS. We have the World Cup. You're laughing, but those are these are going to be drivers of demand, right? And so I think it'll be a solid summer. I do think we're going to see World Cup materialize. Just listening when I was back in Atlanta before the Memorial Day weekend, what they're talking about just on the news and things, they're expecting big crowds.
Yes.
So I think we're going to be surprised. And then we spoke to a few people. Jan and I were talking to someone yesterday. And again, we keep forgetting that all this event is also sponsorship based. So the sponsors are going to have events at these cities, which they're going to bring key clients. So I think it's going to be better than we expect. It's going to be an ADR event. We have not changed our view on that, because in 94, it was an ADR event. In 2026, it's going to be an ADR event. It's going to mostly impact the high-end hotels, the luxury hotels, the upper upscale hotels like what we're sitting in now. So I think it's going to be a solid summer, and I don't think we should be as worried anymore. And as they said, the cake is baked. Whatever happens, it's done.
Hey, it was kind of fun to look at the list of host hotels for the teams. Some of them are staying at, the Fairmont, Mayakoba. Others are at a Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah.
So,
And I was talking to someone from Kansas City, and they're really, because we were concerned about Kansas City, and they're saying, "Oh no, Kansas City is going to do great."
Sure.
So again, I think the cake is baked, and the candles will be placed on it.
We will celebrate.
Yeah, we will celebrate.
Let me disagree one more time. So I don't think this cake is baked, because there are a lot of European travelers who don't need a visa, can just jump over the pond, and once they know when and where their team is traveling,
exactly that.
And this is the July games, and that we've talked about. Like, of course, there's weakness in July forward booking occupancy because people don't know where they're supposed to go. But once we know where the last 16 teams are playing, those tickets are going to sell, and then people are going to make that decision, and then they're going to make the trip, given that they don't need a visa, or the visa process is super easy for them. So it's in the oven. It's not quite baked yet.
Right, not quite baked.
It's rising.
It's rising.
We can smell the whiff of the cake. I can smell it now.
At the end of the day, we will put candles on top and celebrate, right?
It's chocolate, right? Because I can smell that chocolate.
Oh, don't you wish we had smell-o-vision? Anything, before we close up, anything that truly surprised you that you heard at the conference that you disagreed with? Jan?
I just disagreed with two things, so I don't know that I have anything else. I think World Cup July is going to materialize, and I just don't know that the macroeconomic headwinds are that important to us as a hotel industry.
Great reminder. Isaac, anything that you heard and you just said to yourself, no way?
We heard something yesterday about RevPAR expectations that we both agreed that no way. And so we were told that
too high, too low.
This individual was telling us that we are way too conservative, and that we're going to see like very strong RevPAR growth in June and July, and then also that in the third quarter overall was going to be super, super high. Okay. And I don't see it yet. And, the part of me, because we think about all this stuff going, well, maybe we are being too conservative, but I would rather be on the conservative side than have to go back and lower our forecast. We said, oh, yeah, we thought it was going to be 10. It's only going to be 2, right? Right. Then people really, so I think it's just, it's a very uncertain time. And I think that's why, but we are seeing, there may be tailwinds. And again, I go back to what Adam Sachs showed yesterday before Jan got up there. Maybe the tailwinds are going to be stronger than we expect. And, we expected headwinds. They completely turned around. Maybe the tailwinds are at 5 miles an hour. Maybe they'll get to 25, 40 miles an hour, right? You just never know.
Always needs to complain about something
right.
at a conference.
Exactly right.
But I feel like, yes, those uncertainties persist, but there's increasing clarity into how to deal with them and move forward.
Sure.
Let us close up this special episode of Tell Me More the way we always close up, by sharing a metaphor of hotel performance right in this moment. Jan, start us off.
I'm not sure that I have a metaphor. Maybe. So I went to a bunch of cocktail receptions, as one does at NYU, and the last
Humble
one.
brag.
I'm hardly ever invited, so next time invite me, guys. But anyways, you just show your CoStar card and say you're with Isaac, and things happen.
Yeah.
But I am not super worried about AI, because clearly the junior analyst class of hotel investors, people who work for PE funds or the brands, they're out in force. There are not a lot of people being laid off. The young people were at the parties, and I felt really old. But also, the point is, oh, wow, AI maybe can be an assistant, but they're not taking away a whole lot of jobs when I look around at these cocktail parties.
In terms of new hires and, that type of...
There's a whole other generation of analysts, of investors out there, and it's great to see.
So the turning of the generation, the cycle, I'm trying to make a metaphor. We don't need a metaphor. Sounds good to me. Isaac, what do you got?
All right. So I did have to do some research, because I was thinking, okay, my metaphors are always musically based. And I was caught a little off guard, because I thought, this morning, I haven't even thought about this. So I did find one, and it's perfect. So Judah and the Lion just came out with a song. Maybe the best is now. Oh. And so I thought, maybe the best is now.
Maybe
and
the
again,
best is now.
And going back to that comment from the CEO panel, be audacious, to me, when I read the lyrics, it's like, embrace what we have today. Stop thinking about, what's going to happen tomorrow. Everything's going to end.
Right?
Yeah, you're going to plan. You have to plan for tomorrow. We all do, but stop freaking out. Just the best is now. Take it in, enjoy it. It's going to be a solid summer.
And we will talk about it at the Hotel Data Conference in Nashville, Tennessee in August. Come join us.
Which is only less than 2 months away, right?
Yes, it is. That is a great note to end on. Thank you, as always, for joining me. And remember, listeners and watchers, you can find our podcast wherever you like to listen. Download us and support us. Follow these guys on LinkedIn. And of course, visit costar.com/hotel news for the latest in hotel industry coverage. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Terence Baker, News Editor, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and I'm the host of The Upgrade, a CoStar News Hotels podcast for the EMEA region. In it, I discuss with special guests the pressures, challenges, joys and exhilaration that comes with managing, owning and developing hotels in our glorious multifaceted industry. Discovering the EMEA region from the scenic northern shores of Norway to a heights of Table Mountain in South Africa, and most likely some chat about birdwatching, distance running and the English Premiership. Join us wherever you find your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify and on other platforms.
This episode was recorded on June 2nd, 2026. It was filmed by Meredith Sheridan and edited for podcast by Sean McCracken. Visit costar.com/hotel news for more coverage and find all of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your platform of choice.